Chapter 4.4.1.5. So time switches, flashers, and similar devices. So time switches, flashers, and similar devices shall be of the enclosed type or shall be mounted in the cabinets or boxes or equipment enclosures. So energized parts shall be barriered to prevent operator exposure when making manual adjustments or switchings. So exceptions, so devices mounted so they are accessible only to qualified persons shall be permitted without barriers. So provided they are located within an enclosure such that any energized parts within 152 mm of the manual adjustments or switch are covered by suitable barriers. So chapter 4.4.1.6, so position and connection of switches. So A, single through knife switches. So single through knife switches shall be placed so that the gravity will not tend to close them. So single through knife switches approved for use in the inverted position shall be provided with an integral mechanical means that ensures that the blades remains in the open position when so set. So B, double through knife switch. The double through knife switch shall be permitted to be mounted so that the through is either vertical or horizontal. So where the through is vertical, integral mechanical means shall be provided. So hold the blades in the open position when it's so set. So C, connection of switches. So single through knife switches and switches with butt contact shall be connected such that their blades are de-energized when the switch is in the open position. So bolted pressure contact switch shall have barriers that prevent inadvertent contact with energized blades. So single through knife switch, bolted pressure contact switch, molded case switches, switches with butt contacts, and circuit breakers such as switches shall be connected so that the terminals supplying the load are de-energized when the switch is in the open position. The exception, so the blades are terminals and terminals supplying the load of a switch shall be permitted to be energized when the switch is in the open position where the switch is connected to circuits or equipment inherently capable of providing a back feed source of power. So for such installation, a permanent sign shall be installed on the switch enclosure or immediately adjacent to open switches with the following words or equivalent. So warning load side terminals energized by back feed. So the warning sign or label shall comply with chapter 1.10.1.12b. Chapter 4.4.1.7, so indicating, so general use and motor circuit switches, circuit breakers, and molded case switches were mounted in an enclosure as described in chapter 4.4.1.3. So shall it clearly indicate whether they are in the open or off, so or closed or on, so position, where this switch or circuit breaker handles are operated vertically rather than rotationally or horizontally. So the up position of the handle shall be closed or on position. So exception number 1. So vertically operated double through switches shall be permitted to be in a close or on position with the handle in either the up or down position. Exception number 2, on busway installations, so top switches employing a center pivoting handles shall be permitted to be open or closed with either width end of the handle in the up or down position. So the switch position shall be clearly indicating and shall be visible from the floor or from the usual point of operation. So chapter 4.4.1.8, so accessibility and grouping, so location. So all switches and service circuit breakers used as switches shall be located so that they may be operated from a readily accessible place. They shall be installed such that the center of the operating handle of the switch or circuit breakers, when it's in the highest position, it is not more than 2000 mm above the floor or working platform. So exception number 1. So on busway installation, so fuse switches and circuit breakers shall be permitted to be located at the same level as the busway. Suitable means shall be provided to operate the handle of the device from the floor. Exception number 2. So switches and circuit breakers installed adjacent to motors, appliances, or other equipment that they supply shall be permitted to be located higher than 2000 mm to be accessible by portable means. Exception number 3. Hoopstick operated isolating switches shall be permitted at greater heights. So B. Voltage between adjacent devices. So a snap switch shall not be grouped or gang in enclosures with other snap switches, receptacles, or similar devices, unless they are arranged so that the voltage between adjacent devices does not exceed 300 volts, or unless they are installed in enclosure equipped with identified securely installed barriers between adjacent devices. So C. Multiple snap switches. A multiple general use snap switch shall not be permitted to be fed from more than a single circuit unless it is listed and marked as a 2-circuit or 3-circuit switch. So chapter 4.4.1.9, so provision for general use snap switch. So first is the faceplates. So faceplates provided for snap switches mounted in the boxes and other enclosures shall be installed so as to completely cover the opening and where the switch is flush mounted sit against the finished surface. So B. Grounding. So snap switches including dimmer and similar control switches shall be connected to an equipment grounding conductor and shall provided a means to connect metal faceplates so that the equipment grounding conductor, whether or not a metal faceplate is installed. So metal faceplates shall be grounded. Snap switches shall be considered to be part of an effective ground fault current path if either of the following condition is met. So the switch is mounted with metal screws to a metal box or metal cover that is connected to an equipment grounding conductor or to a non-metallic box with integral means for connecting to an equipment grounding conductor. An equipment grounding conductor or equipment mounting jumper is connected to an equipment grounding termination of the snap switch. Exception number 1 to B. So where no means to exist within the snap switch enclosure for connecting to the equipment grounding conductor, or where the wiring method does not include or provide an equipment grounding conductor, a snap switch without a connection to an equipment grounding conductor shall be permitted for replacement purposes only. So a snap switch wired under the provision of these exceptions and located within 2500 mm vertically or 1500 mm horizontally of ground or exposed grounded metal objects shall be provided with the faceplates of non-conducting, non-combustible material with non-metallic attachment screws, unless the switch mounting strap or yoke is non-metallic or the circuit is protected by a ground fault circuit interrupter. Exception number 2 to B. So listed kits or listed assemblies shall not require to be connected to an equipment grounding conductor if all of the following conditions are met. So the device is provided with a non-metallic faceplate that cannot be installed on any other type of device. So the device does not have mounting meant to accept other configuration of faceplates. So number 3, the device is equipped with a non-metallic yoke, and last, all parts of the device that are accessible after installation of the faceplates are manufactured of non-metallic materials. So exception number 3 to B. So a snap switch with integral non-metallic enclosure complying with chapter 3.0.1.15e so shall be permitted without a connection to an equipment grounding conductor. So letter C, construction. So metal faceplates shall be of a ferrous metal not less than 0.76 mm in thickness or non-ferrous metal not less than 1.0 mm in thickness. Of insulating material should be non-combustible and not less than 2.54 in thickness, but they shall be permitted to less than 2.54 mm in thickness if formed or reinforced to provide adequate mechanical strength. So chapter 4.4 4.1.10, so mounting of snap switch. So first is the surface type. So snap switches used with an open wiring or on insulator shall be mounted on the insulating material that separates the conductors at least 13 mm from the surface wired over. So B, box mounted. So flash type snap switches mounted in the boxes that are set back of the finished surface as permitted in chapter 3.14.2.6, so shall be installed so that the extension plaster ears are seated against the surface. So flash type snap switch mounted in the box that are flush with the finished surface or project from it shall be installed so that the mounting yoke or strap of the switch is seated against the box. So screws used for the purpose of attaching a snap switch to a box shall be of the type provided with a listed snap switch, or shall be machine screws have 32 threads per inch or part of listed assemblies or systems in accordance with the manufacturer's instruction. So chapter 4.1.11, so circuit breakers as switches. So a hand-operable circuit breaker equipped with a lever or handle, or a power-operated circuit breaker capable of being opened by hand in the event of a power failure, so shall be permitted to serve as a switch if it has the required number of pulls. So chapter 4.4.1.12, so grounding enclosures. So metal enclosures for switches or circuit breaker shall be connected to an equipment grounding conductor as specified in part 2.50.4. So metal enclosures for switches or circuit breakers used as service equipment shall comply with the provision of part 2.50.5, where non-metallic enclosures are used with metal raceways or metal armored cables. Provision shall be made for connecting the equipment grounding conductors, except as covered in chapter 4.4.1.9b, exception number 1, non-metallic boxes for switches shall be installed with a wiring method that provides or includes an equipment grounding conductor. Chapter 4.1.13, knife switches. So first is the isolating switches. Knife switches rated at over 1200 amperes at 250 volts or less, and at over 1000 amperes at 251 to 1000 volts shall be used only as isolating switches and shall not be opened under load. So B, to interrupt currents. So to interrupt currents over 1200 amperes at 250 volts nominal or less, or over 600 amperes at 251 to 600 volts nominal, a circuit breaker or a switch of special design listed for such purpose shall be used. So letter C, general use switches. So knife switches of ratings less than specified in chapter 4.4.1.13a and B shall be considered general use switches. And D, motor circuit switches. So motor circuit switches shall be permitted to be of the knife switches type. Chapter 4.4.1.14, rating and use of snap switches. So switches shall be used within their ratings and as indicated in chapter 4.4.1.14a through F. So A, alternating current general use snap switch, a form of general use snap switch suitable only for use on AC circuits for controlling the following. So first, resistive and inductive loads not exceeding the ampere rating of the switch at the voltage applied. And the second is the tungsten filament lamp loads not exceeding the ampere rating of the switch at 230 or 115 volts. And the last, the motor loads not exceeding 80% of the ampere rating of the switch as it rated voltage. B, alternating current or direct current general use snap switch. So a form of general use snap switch suitable for use on either AC or DC circuit for controlling the following. So first, resistive loads not exceeding the ampere rating of the switch at the voltage applied. The second is the inductive loads not exceeding 50% of the ampere rating of the switch at the voltage at the applied voltage. So switches rated in horsepower are suitable for controlling motor loads within the rating at the voltage applied.